Hello, and welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm David Bernard Hauk.
I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
And I'm Trish.
And today we are playing Part 5 of Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, and Sam isn't here.
And I am here.
Yes.
And I'm here.
Did I miss one episode or two?
One.
Okay, just one. It was more than 1 week, but just one episode, because it seems like we've all been going through it lately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about going through it, or do we want to just start?
Well, I'm not really going through it anymore. I am, I guess I was only away for one episode, so I guess you wouldn't wonder that much where I was, but in case people are wondering, my life has gone in some crazy directions, most of which are actually good, but one of which is that my car got totaled. And because that happened, I wasn't in it. Nobody was hurt. My partner was in it, but nobody was hurt. But because of that, it's like, oh my God, it takes me so much longer to get to work. I have to do these long commutes. And of course, I work a night shift. So when you get off work at 4 a.m., the buses don't run as frequently. So it's like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? So that's why I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this dang podcast. I got a million things that are stressing me out too much. I guess I'm still not past that, but I noticed this week that I was going to be free at this time. So I was just like, you know what? Let's freaking do it. In case y'all are curious, I have been playing along. I got kind of behind because of life being tough, but I am largely caught up. So I've played like half of today's stuff. So I played it all in a rush. So, not necessarily catching every little plot beat. Also, this game's translation continues to be the way that it is.
Yes, it does.
But I'll listen along to the parts that I played, and then I'll find out what happens in the parts that I didn't play, and then hopefully by next time I'll be all caught up, and hopefully I can be here next week too. I don't know if I can be or not at this moment, but we'll see. But yeah, no, life's actually good. I just had this one really annoying life situation that I have to freaking deal with. Right now the car is at whatever place where the mechanic appraises it to see how much the damages is, and then finds out if it's totaled, which it totally is, for the record. It's undrivable and all the airbags exploded. And then I guess I'm waiting to find out how much money they're going to give me, and then I have to go car shopping, which isn't fun. Also, my PS4 broke, which I guess is bad too. So aside from 2 different pieces of technology breaking, everything else is good. So I have nothing more to say. I'm glad to be here, though. I am, because I missed it for a few weeks. It's like time to get back to the old swing of things and talk about a video game.
Yeah,
Love
and I missed you having you here too.
Yeah, our episode was really short because we didn't have you talking.
Well,
You left me alone with the boys.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So I went to a chiropractor, and he said my bones are all wrong.
Oh no!
What?
You know what? I've been there. Did they show you that thing where they tell you what phase you're in and they freak you out?
Phase?
Phase?
I don't know what you mean by phase.
Then don't worry about it. I guess they didn't.
Yeah. Apparently my head is too far forward.
Yep.
So I'm going to the chiropractor again tomorrow to see how we can fix that.
Oh, you should tell them to give you back when I went to a certain chiropractor for a while. They gave me, you've probably seen it back when we lived together. They gave me this thing. It's like a gray foam triangle. And you literally just imagine a big wedge, and you lay on the ground with your neck on this triangle where it's it doesn't sound very comfortable because it's not. It's like you're laying, it's like if you laid your neck down on something and it's just poking up at your neck and you go over the top of it, bend over it. But it's basically bending your neck in the opposite direction, to bend it back where it's supposed to be. And it doesn't really hurt. You just do it every day for 5 minutes or something. Anyway, I know that chiropractic is in many cases a crackpot pseudoscience, and no one really knows what actually helps and what actually doesn't, and I don't really know. But in my anecdotal experience, I think that really helped. So you should mention that and see if they, maybe the person you're talking to prescribes that thing.
We'll see.
Give me the wedge. The wedge.
Where's my wedge?
Where's my triangle?
Yeah, so I went to the chiropractor, and I feel like something else happened since we last recorded, but it slipped my mind.
Awesome. How you doing, Trish?
I'm doing fairly well. I was having a bit of an upswing in mental health, and then the last week, half a week-ish, I had a little bit of a downswing. By a little bit, I mean quite a bit. Today's been mostly good, so hoping that continues.
Nice. Okay, we're gonna go on.
Other than that, the only big thing is I'm now on my third playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses, and let me just say...
you know what? That's the right number of playthroughs for it, probably.
Actually,
I'm doing more than that.
Surprised.
I'm doing more than that.
Minimum 4.
Yeah, I'm also going to say, hilariously enough, it's only on my third playthrough that I'm actually figuring out some of the systems that I wish I'd figured out a while ago.
Mm-hmm. Game has a lot of systems.
I didn't realize that. I didn't really put any stock into the fact that, so if you select battle on your free days, there's one level that has no cost to it, so you can just grind there as much as you want. And I'm like, and I was like, that's where you get mithril. Because my first 2 playthroughs, I would get these ruined weapons, and it'd be like, yeah, you could reforge this into this legendary weapon. It just takes 10 mithril. And I'm like, I've got none. Where is it? And the answer was, I gotta grind it.
And now you know. That's awesome. I do need to close out a saga. I do now have estradiol.
Yay! Good to hear.
I know that was a whole fucking thing. It was literally months and months and months. I now have it. I have quite a bit of it, actually. I am out of Adderall now, but that's not because of bullshit. It is bullshit to get more of it, but it just kind of takes a little bit, and I could have started doing it 2 weeks earlier, and I didn't. So that one's on me. It's not going to be an epic saga. But I am getting properly hormoned now.
Nice. Speaking of healthcare, I found out today that my health insurance is changing on September 1st, which is a weird time for it to change, it feels like to me, but that's how my company is doing it. And as you may have heard, healthcare is, you get your healthcare from your employer, and your employer just does whatever with your healthcare. So I'm going to a completely new insurance company. This is potentially going to fuck up some stuff in my life, and I just have to wait until September 1st to find out.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yep, things. It could make things worse. It could make things better.
Could make
things medium. But no matter what it does, it'll at least be annoying.
Yeah. See,
tying healthcare to employers, folks. Not a good system. We shouldn't have done it.
It's not great. I mean, I don't have that. I have my employer, I work full time, and they don't give me anything.
That's actually worse.
That is worse.
The problem is that Renard has the better of the various options we have nowadays.
Yep. Instead I go through the state marketplace, and I get to pay money for health insurance I don't feel like I can use without going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Good old public mandate. Thanks, Obama.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's been so long since I've heard the phrase "Thanks, Obama."
Yeah, well, this one literally is.
We're forgetting to thank him
That's
for
right.
all he's done.
Speaking of presidents being sucky, this inflation is killing me.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad.
It's bad. My coffee went up by $2. The coffee beans that I get every week went up by $2 in the grocery store. It's rough. Anyway, that's just unrelated. But I noticed because of course inflation's been hitting everyone, and the gas prices went up and they went down a little bit. But the grocery store is when you really notice. If my granolas go up by 10 cents, it's whatever. But the coffee going up by a whopping $2 when it's was a really good deal before, I was just like, God fucking damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we need a better economy and we need a better healthcare system.
Agreed and agreed.
We need a better world.
Yes.
And we need a better translation for Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
I was about to do a slightly different segue. Good job, though.
That was a really good one.
Well, let's hear yours.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing we don't need is better video games.
Yes, because this game rules.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I think last week was when we talked about how much we hate how it plays, but the story is good.
The story is interesting. I look forward to seeing where it goes.
It is quite weird playing a game in the SMT/Persona series that just is just not great gameplay wise. It's very funny because the Persona games, later ones, play awesome, and the SMT games, I play a little bit of the old ass ones. They're clunky and brutal, but they're not at all bad. They're still fantastically designed. So this is just what happened with this game? Very weird.
Yeah, we talked at length last week about how the system of negotiating with demons to get cards and then using those cards to summon personas, it just does not hang together.
You have to grind so many to get any of them.
I would say that throwing out all these new ideas, if you come up with a bunch of new ideas for a game, it's just hard to, you don't want to get it right the first time. But there's other SMT games, older ones, where they do throw out a whole bunch of new ideas all at once, and they somehow get it right on the first go. So I guess the game design gods weren't with them this time around.
Also, if I recall Persona 1 correctly, it essentially works the same way in Persona 2. So they could have made it better in Persona 2 since they had already worked on it in Persona 1. And
Chris, you were saying something else about the cards. What was that?
Oh, I was just saying that it is just so frustrating that not only do you have to grind a lot to get a usable amount of cards, but even if you do that, you end up I just never felt incentivized in the first game, really, to do that work to get a new persona, because the game gives you new personas eventually, and the ones you have to start with aren't bad. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just it's a system that just doesn't feel like it works.
Yeah, and these games they're complicated games. They're complicated mishmashes of really kind of esoteric systems, and it's making me realize in retrospect how much I appreciate the later games for making it feel so effortless. In the later games, the different systems, which if you put them out on paper, you're like, wait, these games have these various systems that do not actually have anything to fucking do with each other, and yet the fact that the games managed to funnel them into each other so that you have a natural flow where you go do this and then you go do that, and it all just works instead of just ignoring parts of the game. Now that I think about it, mad props to them, because now we see what it's like when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. All right.
This the game still owns, so let's talk about it and its bad translation.
Yes, let's. So the gang heads to the Kuzunoha Detective Agency and gets them to spread the rumor that a man with information about the Joker incidents will appear at Parabellum. I guess I should ask, did you spread the rumor that there would be a man or that there would be a woman?
Bernard, I feel like my answer should be very obvious.
Yes.
Same.
Okay. I did say at least one of y'all should choose to have a woman show up because I needed to have a man show up because you have to do that in order to see all of Totino's side content.
I
also it turns out to be the better path, in my opinion.
Oh.
As it turns out.
Wait, which path?
Nanjo, the guy's path.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. For a second, I thought you were bummed out because we did the woman one. It's like, no, that's good. It's good that we did the woman. You did the man one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. Sorry, I feel like your tone of voice was not matching the words you were saying, and I was confused.
No, that's just the ennui.
Ennui.
I wasn't masking it well. I'll try to mask it better in the future.
You'll have to apply your persona.
Exactly. So the gang heads to Parabellum. There's lots of media folks there trying to get a scoop on this mysterious man. Ulala and Balfu wait inside, while Maya and Katsuya wait outside. Katsuya is worried that they won't be able to find their mark. Maya tells him to think positive. This will become important next week. The man from the photo arrives. Balfu and Ulala do a weird, elaborate ruse to block the door and keep the reporters away from the man outside.
You say ruse. It's like 90% actually happening.
Yeah, the ruse is that they don't like each other and they get in a fight, which...
They don't like each other.
Yeah.
And Ulala is a bitch always ready to throw hands, for which I adore her.
Exactly. So Maya and Katsuya approach the man outside. We cut to the gang meeting with the two people from the photos in the penthouse of a fancy hotel. The people from the photos are introduced as Nanjo, the son of the head of some of Japan's biggest companies, and Eriko, a model and fan of the occult. They are both from the first Persona game. There's going to be a lot of stuff from the first Persona game this week, and I wish I'd played it more recently than like 6 years ago so I could remember it better and have more to say about it. Anyway, the group gets to talking about the New World Order. Nanjo asks if they've heard of a Hisataka Shinjo. Balfu says he's Tatsuzo's secretary, but nothing comes up when you snoop on his history. Nanjo says rumor has it that Shinjo is actually Takahisa Kandori, the bad guy from the first game. He was the president of a company called Sebek, and responsible for terrible things happening in another city 4 years ago, which Nanjo, Eriko, and all their friends put a stop to. Katsuya's like, isn't Kandori dead? Nanjo says, yeah, we thought so. But while following Kandori's trail, he was led to Tatsuzo. Eriko says she was investigating the connection of the Wonglong fortunes to the Joker case when she teamed up with Nanjo. We haven't mentioned these fortunes much, and but it's all the NPCs talk about. It's the only thing.
Yeah.
It's I'll talk about it later.
Yes. Eriko says the New World Order needs Jokers for some reason, and Wonglong is connected. They may be using the fortunes to spread misinformation and rumors. Nanjo says the kidnapped Jokers are taken to a nearby laboratory, and that Shinjo is known to go there often. Eriko says that fortune teller Chizuru is filming a TV show later today. Nanjo asks the gang to help him bust into the lab while Eriko handles the TV station. Before leaving, we are introduced to Matsuoka, Nanjo's bodyguard, who seems to be against Nanjo's actions. But he says we'll regret it if we speak of what he's doing. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
The only way into the lab is through the sewers, so we get a sewer dungeon.
Pretty damn good that it took this long to have one.
Yeah. When they arrive in the sewers, Nanjo reveals that his father financially supports Tatsuzo. He knows how to get into the lab because his father's companies financed its construction. However, Nanjo says he walks the path he believes in. 2 people have to stay behind to man some controls, but luckily 2 random people from the first game show up out of nowhere and offer to do it so the whole party can proceed. Nice.
Okay. We are still in the part that I played. Did I miss something? What was the point of that?
Of those 2 people showing up?
What was the point of having a problem that is immediately solved by a random thing that was pulled out of their ass when they could have simply not pulled the problem or the solution out of their ass?
Cameos for these 2 characters from the first game.
Great. Like,
they arrived at the solution and found a problem to fit, and they weren't very good about it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing some, like, do these characters have to be there for some important reason? Was this problem foreshadowed? Because to me, it seemed like, oh, we got to have 2 people. I was thinking, like, oh, I'm going to have to leave 2 of my party members behind as, like, a gameplay thing. And then it's like, nope, here's 2 guys to do the thing that we just made you do. And I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm glad I wasn't missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's really goofy, y'all.
Yeah, it is.
Especially considering I don't know these characters.
Yeah, I barely recognize them myself, and I've played the first game.
We talked about how it's funny that, it's funny to imagine playing this game without playing the first part of Persona 2, but we're still getting a little bit of that because we may have played Persona 2 Part 1, but we haven't played Persona 1. So we're still getting a little bit of the, damn, they sure remember do things and we don't know what they're talking about vibe.
I was literally thinking that as I was playing through. I was like, we've been saying that, but we had experienced that how many times now where it's just like...
we're getting a little taste of it. Imagine if they'd kept doing this. Imagine if Persona games had continued building off of the previous one instead of them being totally unrelated. Like, in Persona 4, the only connection to Persona 3 and Persona 4 is that, like, in Persona 4 Golden, there's, like, a part where you go on a class trip to Persona 3 land. Like, literally, you go to, like, a city, and there's, like, a cut scene where you go to a different city, and you hang out there, and it's like, oh, real heads know this is the place where Persona 3 happened, and I think... Do you even run into any characters there? I think you do, right?
You run into a couple of the social link characters, I believe, but not the main party.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, that's it, right? But yeah, if they had just kept building and building and building, like with the degree of like extremely tight relationality that this game has, we'd be in a Persona 5 would have been wild by the time you get there.
Mm-hmm. So the gang makes it through the sewers to a parking garage. The security room is in sight, but an armed guard's in the way. Ulala steps out to try to seduce the guard, but Baofu jumps in front of her and uses his coins on the guard, and now that it's happened in a cutscene and not just a battle, I'm like, wait, how does he fight people and demons with coins?
He throws them at them, obviously.
I guess he throws them hard.
I mean, that's the move in Final Fantasy, you throw your gil at them, but yeah, it's goofier when it happens outside of the battle system.
It'd be hilarious if you didn't buy weapons for him and just every time you had him do a normal attack, it cost 1 yen. But anyway, they approach the security room and hear some guards interrogating a punk kid who snuck in. It's Aikichi! One guard says Aikichi is probably a friend of one of the guinea pigs. Aikichi's like, so the rumors about human experimentation here are true? He demands they release Sugimoto, who we might remember being that minor antagonist from Cuss High in Innocent Sin.
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't, and I looked it up later to see who he was.
Wait, you mean like the bad principal from the very beginning?
No, in Cuss High.
Do you mean... Do you mean the rival gang guy, or do you mean the student council president?
Rival gang guy
Okay.
who
I remember now.
he
Yeah.
kidnapped Hanakoji.
That whole thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I can visualize it now. I actually like that guy quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
For like 5 seconds he was on screen.
Yeah. I did not remember him. I thought when he was talking about release Sugimoto, I thought it was that one goon of Aikichi's who randomly had a face portrait. But no, it's that guy. So the gang steps in and saves Aikichi. Turns out Sugimoto used the Joker curse on Aikichi and was subsequently kidnapped. It's not clear how Aikichi survives, but he feels a duty as the leader of Kuss High to save Sugimoto. Katsuya tells Aikichi to leave, but he insists on coming along. While you're in this dungeon, you can visit the Velvet Room and Trish's Spring, and Aikichi comments on them seeming familiar. Have we mentioned Trish's Spring? Ever?
You mean my spring? I think we might have once or twice.
I didn't listen to last week's episode, so maybe unless y'all mentioned it last week, no, I don't think we have.
Yeah, it's a place where you can heal.
Yep, and it's very expensive.
Yes, it's there's a bad fairy there who overcharges you for healing. Luckily, you never really need to use it because I've
never used it.
You gain SP or whatever it's called as you walk around, and you use that to heal.
Yep.
Anyway, as the gang goes through the lab, they get help from the scientists who regret their work there. Eventually, they find a bunch of cells where the kidnapped Jokers are kept. The people held there look weird, and Nanjo's like, these people have been demonized, which means they have been taken over by personas. However, Sugimoto is not among them. Nanjo tells Aikichi to escort the demonized people to a truck they passed by in the garage. Nanjo plans to bust them out on the truck and take them to his family's hospital to try and save them. It's not clear why Aikichi, who can't defend himself like the persona users, is the right choice for this job, but whatever. Aikichi agrees and leaves, finding Sugimoto to the party. Eventually, the gang finds their way to a room with a bunch of equipment in it. Balfu hacks into a computer and finds research on separating a Joker from its user and artificially creating persona users. The research is by Kandori, the bad guy. Balfu copies the data onto a hard drive so they can look into it later. Ulala brings their attention to a strange device in the next room. It's labeled Joker and filled with vials of what looks like blood, except it glows and tiny hands form in it as it sloshes around. Weird. Suddenly, the lights flash on. Kandori is there, along with a fuck ton of hired goons.
Hired goons?
Kandori holds Aikichi hostage and tells them to give back the data if they want the kid to live. Nanjo asks how Kandori is alive, seeing as the former killed the latter 4 years ago. He says, Kotodama, as you see, they have a great interest in my research. They summoned me back from Hades. They talk about old times some more, and Nanjo tells Balfu to give back the data. Balfu slides it over to the goons, but Kandori's like, I'm gonna kill Aikichi anyway. But at the last possible second, Totino's bursts in and saves him. He tells the gang to get out of there, and the gang makes a break for it in the confusion. Kandori says to Totino's, regardless, neither you nor they can escape from fate. Paradox boy. Totino says, I see, you too were enchanted by him. Then tell him that I'll protect Maya and everyone else.
Bernard, you didn't do your bit you always do.
What bit? Oh, him.
I see. You were enchanted by him.
Sorry. My throat was feeling weird and I got distracted. Right. They summon their personas for an epic off-screen battle. The gang makes it to the garage where Aikichi has loaded the demonized people onto the truck. The goons catch up, and they brought demonized Sugimoto with them. Sugimoto and the goons attack.
Hired goons.
After a tough boss battle, Aikichi's like, "You didn't have to kill him!" The gang's like, "We didn't kill him. He's alive." Aikichi's like, "Oh." Nanjo waxes philosophical, and Aikichi says Nanjo's a true man and asks to be his apprentice, and Balfu is like, "You guys, we're supposed to be escaping!" Ulala asks what about Totino's and the data. Balfu reveals he has the hard drive with him, and says Totino's will be fine. The gang makes their escape on the truck. Later, the gang arrives back at the penthouse to find Eriko, Matsuoka, and the dead bodies of Nanjo's other two hired goons.
Hired goons?
Matsuoka says by the time he got back, it was too late. Nanjo says Matsuoka is sus, but Matsuoka says no, I was fixing wiring in the med bay. Red saw me. I've never played Among Us, but I think that's what happens.
That's right.
Nanjo apologizes and asks Matsuoka to take care of the situation. Ulala wonders if this could be the work of Sneak. In any case, they're not safe here, so Balfu invites everyone over to his lair. At the lair, Balfu looks into the stolen data and finds information on a machine called JSM, which separates the Jokers from people. I wonder if JSM stands for Joker Separation Machine. Balfu says, "The separated Joker goes in a tank. It's known as Kegare. Kegare consists of things like hatred and fears." Katsuya notices... What?
Nothing. I couldn't stop. I couldn't help but laugh thinking about translator's note. Kegare is hatred and fears.
Oh, classic meme.
It's one of the all-time. I think it's one of the greatest images in the history of the internet. I think about it all the time.
Yes. Katsuya notices phone records in the data, which have the same receiving and sending lines. It's a list of Joker calls. They even have info on emergency calls and police dispatch. Balfu says, "There's more. Is it a robot? A two-legged tank with human nerve implants, co-developed by the Defense Agency. Metal Gear."
Yeah. Yeah, it's Metal Gear.
Sorry, I did Solid Snake voice, and so I had to cough.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even Solid Snake voice can't do Solid Snake voice.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's not good for your voice. You got to go to the doctor every time you do it.
Ulala and Eriko enter and say the city is in a panic over Chizuru's fortunes. Eriko explains what she found at the TV station. Chizuru is connected to the New World Order, blah blah blah, Wong Long, blah blah blah, dragons, blah blah blah, Joka, blah blah blah. Even people who aren't doing the Joker curse are turning into Jokers. That's bad.
Yeah, that's not good.
Chizuru
I think we should have fewer Jokers.
Yes.
What a bunch of Jokers.
Chizuru escaped and said people like us are the reason her fortunes are needed, and that she collected a ton of Kegare. Katsuya puts the pieces together. The fortune-telling creates more Jokers, the Mafia hunts them down, Kendori does science on them, and the police cover it up. A convenient news story plays on the TV, saying that Genji Sasaki, producer of the group Muses, is holding a seminar to purify those affected by the Joker curse at Smile Hirosaka. Balfu's like, let's go there and find out why they're collecting all this Kegare. In an alternate timeline, the gang spread...
Wait, is that as far as we went?
Yes, I said farther, but then I realized, whoa, that was too much.
Oh, I played all this. Cool, yeah, that's exactly where I stopped.
Cool.
Yeah, I was awesome, nice. I'm caught up.
Yes, but now we have the alternate timeline where the gang
Or
spread...
the normal timeline.
Or the normal
Yes.
timeline.
Every timeline is an alternate timeline.
That's true.
Anyway, in this timeline, the gang spread the rumor that a woman would appear at Parabellum. Things play out the same until Eriko asks the gang to come with her to the TV station, while Nate checks out the heavily guarded lab on his own, I guess? At the TV station, the gang runs into Hidehiko Uesugi, who is from the first game. Yukino, who we might remember is a friend of all these first gamers, is there with Fuji as well. They're all ready to help out. Though actually they're all doing a photo shoot, but they want to help out. Uesugi says the media has been manipulated to manufacture the fortune-telling boom. Ulala's like, interesting. Why is there a cat in here? And why has it been staring at us this whole time?
Lala, asking the real questions here.
Uesugi's like, oh, Chizuru had a cat like that. The cat runs off. This is definitely fine. The gang heads upstairs and methodically bursts into each of the dressing rooms to find Chizuru. On the way, they find Ginty Sasaki and Muses. Apparently a member of Muses, named Lisa, is worried because her classmate Totino's is missing.
There's also a really funny thing where if you talk to a cop party member, he hears that, oh, so this girl has a crush on my younger brother? Well, I'd better start thinking about how that would affect their wedding. And he just starts planning super ahead of time, and it's
really
honestly kind of adorable.
But yeah, we do find out that Lisa has never actually talked to Totino's. But still, best to plan for their wedding, just in case. Maya feels like she knows Lisa. In another dressing room, they also run into actress Junko Kashihara, who is June's mother. Maya feels like she knows her, and I'm like, no, you don't. You saw her for like 10 seconds during a very packed series of cutscenes.
Also, can we I didn't never think about this in the first game, but June's mom is named Junko?
I guess.
I hadn't thought about that. That's just silly.
It is a bit.
Yep. The gang finally arrives at Chizuru's dressing room, but it's empty save for the cat from earlier. The cat meows, and the room turns monochrome. The cat walks to the door and phases through it. It turns out this was not fine. Eriko says Chizuru has trapped them in the reverse side of reality. She's excited about this because she's an occult nerd. Anyway, they have to go through 8 doors in order, and there's a painfully obvious puzzle behind it, but that's not interesting.
Frustratingly obvious.
Yes, it's like the whole puzzle is that you have numbers written in these special characters, but it's mirror images is the puzzle, and the characters cannot figure it out.
Nope. They give you a lot of hints by almost getting it, but they cannot figure it out.
It's so annoying.
What is this? The first case of Danganronpa?
Oh!
Yes.
The first Danganronpa case, for those of y'all not in the know, features a very obvious case of backwards writing. However, a lot of other things about that case are genuinely hard to figure out and confusing. So, it's not like you're just sitting there hitting A, waiting for everyone to figure out the obvious thing for like a fucking hour. You are more like mashing the button, waiting for everyone to figure out the obvious thing for like 5 fucking minutes. But still.
And the conclusion of that case, it genuinely shocked me.
Yeah, so it still got some very shocking things to it because it's like, but also the whole, like, who cares? I don't care about spoiling it for the y'all who listen. Literally, the killer's name is written at the crime scene, but it's written backwards. So no one knows what it is. It's so stupid.
I also appreciate that case is one of those that has a lovely gray area to it where it can be interpreted in various different ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety to it, just not in the who was the killer part.
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not talking about Danganronpa. We're talking about Persona 2.
This is now that I'm thinking about it a bit more. Actually, this is about the same level of dumb. I'd say they're about tied.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But it's who do we keep running into as we try to solve this incredibly easy puzzle, Bernard?
So when they go through the third door, a super creepy dude holding a fucking chainsaw shows up. Eriko says this guy has been stalking her, though she thought she, quote, got rid of him, unquote, with her persona. So the creepy stalker with the chainsaw attacks. Oh man, I just remembered the hilarious thing that happens in Mandy with a chainsaw, which I'm not going to spoil for people who haven't seen Mandy.
Oh, I haven't seen Mandy.
Y'all should all go watch the film Mandy. It's a very good movie.
Something happens with a chainsaw in that movie that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie.
There's a whole, and this part is not the spoiler itself, but if you need to be convinced to watch it, there is a chainsaw on chainsaw fight scene.
Ooh.
Yes.
But
It's
within
like a
that
sword
scene
fight, but
are
with
things
chainsaws.
I will not spoil that will delight and make you holler.
Yes, I hollered so much when it happened. Anyway, but we're not talking about Mandy. We're talking about Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
That's right.
So the gang kicks the chainsaw guy's ass and leaves. Behind the fourth door, he appears again. The gang kicks his ass again, and Kazuya handcuffs him to a thing. However, behind the sixth door, he appears for yet another fight. He says Eriko is the same as him. This time, the gang breaks his fucking neck.
I can't feel bad about that.
No, that's fine.
It's based.
There's also so much of Ulala threatening this man, and it's so good.
It is.
Her bleeped out threats.
Yeah, I didn't play this path in the PSP version, so I don't know if they changed that. But it's very funny.
Ulala rules and will never stop ruling.
I'm going to be gushing about her a bit in the later section.
Yeah,
wonderful.
I don't know. She's just she's a special creature.
Listen, I want to marry this bitch. I love her.
I'm not sure what I want to do to Ulala. I didn't mean that in a weird way. I'm just she's very interesting in a way that is just very strange.
Mm-hmm.
She's a bit of a goober.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, she's an absolute fucking goober.
She's honestly, she's less the Lisa of this game and more the Aikichi.
She's an Aikichi with Lisa characteristics.
Yes. She's her
Absolutely.
own wonderful character.
She's Junpei.
And Balfu is Balfu.
That's right.
Baofu is fucking Baofu.
So behind the seventh door, Ulala asks Eriko what the stalker meant when he said that she's the same as him. She says he must have been talking about him, a high school classmate of hers. They had promised to meet again after they fulfilled their dreams. But how did the stalker know about him? Behind the final door, they find the protagonist from Persona 1, except he's creepy.
It's him.
It's Boy with Earring. He asks if Eriko kept her promise. Balfu and Katsuya are like, there's creepy music playing in this scene. This is bad. The guy says Eriko's face is like a mask and tells her to say what she's feeling. Then he'll tell her what she wants to know. She can't bring herself to speak. He says, your obsession disturbs me. Don't bother me anymore. Are you satisfied? Katsuya sees the cat and shoots it. Persona 1 protagonist disappears. The cat gets up and hisses. Katsuya says an amazing line. That stalker and that young boy were projections of Miss Kirishima's fears. That about sums it up. Unfortunately for you... Yes?
I was just gonna say, I'm so happy you wrote that down. It's so good.
Unfortunately for you, science has progressed. We have immunity from curses and illusions. You're 100 years too late.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Maddie.
Oh, I was just gonna say that about sums it up.
That about sums it up.
Made me fucking die.
We just need to enter that into our lexicons.
It's just, I think, okay, the game is reflecting my own mindset here, because I feel like the previous game, like, while I really enjoyed it, so much of it just seemed so inexplicable and random. Like, where the fuck is this going? And I don't actually think that this game is any more explicable or any better paced or structured or any more sensical, but yet maybe I'm just used to it at this point. Like, in the previous game, I just kept being like, what? Hitler? What? Weird creatures from, like, weird lore? Like, it's not that I don't understand what's going on at any given moment, it's that I don't understand what the point of it is, or where it's going, or what this story is, like, capital A, about, right? This game, again, I guess if I were to look at it objectively, I guess it might be the case that it's really not any different at all. It's like the same shit. But I'm just completely on board with it. And just like any kind of thing that happens, I'm just like if they hadn't had that line in there, if they were just like, what did they say? What's the wording of the line before it?
That stalker and that young boy were projections of Miss Kirishima's fears.
Yeah, if you said that and the next line wasn't there, I would have been like, well, all right. Guess that about sums it up. It's like you just dust off your hands, move on to the next plot point. You know, it's a very workaday sort of plot writing. You know, it's just like, all right, well, that's resolved.
Yep, I was gonna say, I think the difference and what you're kind of feeling there, perhaps, is just that the main characters of the previous game were teenagers, and so they kind of took everything in that was happening very seriously. And I mean, not that these characters aren't, but these are all tired fucking adults.
Yeah,
they have no time for this.
Yeah, like they've been on the block a couple times, man. This is just their day job. All right, these are just some hardworking blue collar anime supernatural warriors, right? They're just like, look, whatever, dude, just can we get on with it and go into the battle now? We're not gonna make a whole like thing out of it, you know what I mean? Like, I can almost imagine the villain at the end being like saying to who would be the funniest character? Fucking Yuki or something. It's being like, I'm Yuki from the future. Ooh, and everyone's just like, all right.
That about sums it up.
So the cat turns into a monster and attacks. The gang defeats the cat and escapes the spell, and I'm like, what was the point of that whole interlude? To give us some character building for Eriko, who is not important?
To quote Balfu, forget the stupid cat.
I get what you mean. I kind of enjoyed it. I was a little hesitant about halfway through the stalker stuff, because I was like, it feels like you're treating this a bit like a joke, even though she is clearly really panicking and not okay with this, which is a very realistic reaction. But then at the end, the idea that this is all just like built on her existing fears, it makes the chainsaw thing make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that it was a neat little dip into someone's psyche. Not a character I know or am invested in, but I was still down for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly compared to a sewer level.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's just the fact that at this point, at this point, I am no longer expecting every weird little interlude or episode to end up actually mattering. So when it doesn't, I don't care anymore. So instead of being like, but what was the point of that? I'm just like, all right, cool, next.
I'm just personally not someone who enjoys media by going, okay, but how is this going to tie into the rest of the work?
Sometimes and sometimes ant.
That's cool.
Sometimes ant. I can do both methods, right? I think it's more about expectations. Like if you're expecting, because again, this is Persona, right? I mean, like in the later Persona games, it does all build up into this cohesive whole. So I think if you're expecting it to be that, then you're like, why isn't this happening? Whereas if you're not expecting it, you're just like, all right, I'm acclimated, right? This is a purely episodic situation, and the writers, it's just that yes and sort of writing, the kind you get. Sometimes you read a fantasy book and halfway through you're like, wait a second, was this based on somebody's D&D campaign? And then you read it, and it's like, yep, it sure was. And it's because it has that yes and quality to it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this whole plot cul-de-sac gives Ulala a lot of opportunities to be absolutely wonderful.
Yes. Totally true. Also, when it comes to video games, I definitely feel like sometimes, and by sometimes I mean a lot of the time, if you think about it really hard, you realize that the dungeon exists in a video game because, like, they needed to give the game one more dungeon, or because they needed the game to be certain hours long, or because they already made some assets and by damned if they're not going to use them, or because maybe this dungeon actually mattered in an earlier version of the game, or because there's some mechanical concept that they need to tutorialize, which that doesn't happen here, but like, sometimes, right? Like, play the game StarCraft, there's totally entire plot lines where it's like, why did this one group of Protoss aliens rebel against the other group? Oh, because this is an RTS, and it would be boring if there were never any Protoss v Protoss battles.
Yeah.
You have to have a level where each faction fights every other faction, because otherwise you're not exploring the game's possibility space mechanically. So it's like, that's why every single plot line involves like internecine conflict between the different groups, right? It's like, wait, why did this one group of bad guys defect to our side? Oh, so that we could have a interesting level where these two characters team up. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say, having played to our original stopping point, I preferred this dungeon so much more than the next one.
Oh boy, I'm dreading it.
It's not awful. Sorry. I just don't enjoy in games like this the dungeons where it feels like the only plot you get is at the very end. Mm-hmm. And like, at least this one had stuff sprinkled throughout that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Bernard, did you die?
Yes. Sorry, I was yawning.
Gotcha.
It was a long one.
And I was coughing, so.
Anyway, we cut to one of the studios where Chizuru is being interviewed. Ginji, Muses, and Junko are there too. Chizuru stands to do a fortune-telling thing, then collapses. She realizes her cat has been defeated. She says she's fine and they can continue. She does her fortune-telling thing and says more people will be consumed by the Joker, and at this rate, it is vital to purify the Kegare before this occurs. The gang is back in the real world now. A crew member tells them to get out of here because Chizuru said more people would become Jokers. Then Junko became a Joker in the studio and is going berserk. The gang bursts into the studio and sees Totino's protecting Muses from Junko. Chizuru orders Junko to kill him, and then attacks the party herself. The gang defeats her, but it turns out to be a fake. Junko is collapsed on the ground, and Totino's is gone. Lisa says he just said to get Junko to some place called the Velvet Room. We now don't see them take Junko to the Velvet Room. We just cut back to the penthouse. The gang finds the dead guys. They go to Balfu's lair. Nanjo provides a hard drive with data from the lab. And from this point, the story plays out the same, except either Nanjo or Eriko sticks with you for a while, depending on who you chose. And next week, we will go to Smile Hirosaka, and some stuff will happen after a lot of dungeon.
Oh boy, oh boy. I don't even mind, honestly. I'm so relaxation pill. Sometimes a long dungeon
just
is...
stay relaxed.
Nope. Sometimes a long dungeon is like the most frustrating thing in the world. Other times, it's just like, fuck it, I ain't doing anything today. I'll go around for 2 hours. This is great. But it's a throwback to Septerracore.
Everyone's favorite game, Septerracore.
That game has some goddamn dungeons.
Anyway, what memorable moments do y'all have?
Do you mind me going first?
Yeah, go for it. I'm actually looking up mine anyway. I had it open and then I got rid of it on accident, like I do.
It happens. Yeah, so my big thing this week is just, I adore Lala so much. That scene near the beginning of this section where her and Baofu are having to hang out together is so good. Just, she starts off like being like, we should really get we should get to know each other better. She starts like trying to go into like deep personal adult shit, and Baofu's just, the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. And it's just like that feeling when you try to share your life struggles with someone and they just do not give even half of a fuck. And he's just okay. I'm just Baofu's is an asshole. I don't like him.
Yes, he's an asshole, and I think he's hilarious.
He's very funny, and he provides an excellent person for Ulala to punch. I am a little worried that some of the things they're doing in other stories would be the kinds of things you use to set up them possibly being a romantic thing, and I don't want that at all.
I don't think Baofu has any interest in that kind of thing. He's too busy busting taps or whatever he does.
Whatever it is he does. And then also just entirely throughout the stalker section, I adore Ulala being this foul-mouthed punk of a woman ready to just kick some dude's ass for threatening a woman. It's good. I just adore her. My only other memorable moment thing is I did not notice until this section, but the Velvet Room's background music, I don't know if this was the case last game or if it's just this game, but it's a very different version of it, but it's very clearly Gymnopede #1, which is a bit of classical music. It's one of those ones where if you learn to recognize it, you'll hear it everywhere because it's so used.
No, it totally is. It's really neat.
Yeah, in this game, and I believe in the previous game and Persona 1, sometimes when you go in the Velvet Room, it plays a different song.
Okay.
And sometimes, yes, it's that song. But usually
when you go into #2, which is the more famous one. Not that one's the different one, and that's in a different video game we haven't played on this, that we had not played on this podcast.
What about you, Maddie? Have you brought them up yet?
I just have one. I just have one very important one. So Kandori, who's also called Guido Kandori, which is very funny to me.
Yes, in the Revelations.
Yeah. Okay. So I was about to ask. So I guess Bernard knows. Trish, do you know what Guido's name is in the Japanese original and also the North American version of Persona 1?
No, please tell me.
His name is Guido Sardinia.
That's not his name in the Japanese original.
Oh no! Okay, must have read wrong. Well, at least in Persona 1, he's called Guido Sardinia, which is incredible.
Yeah, in Revelations Persona, they decided to give him that name, and then
in North America.
Yes.
Okay, I was looking on the wiki and I misread it.
If it says in Revelations Persona something happens, that just means in the localization.
Oh, gotcha. Anyway, that's the best name I've ever seen for a video game character of all time. Especially considering he's not he's not Italian.
No, he's not.
Like, not even a little bit. But according to the localizers, he's not just Italian, he's Sardinian. Which is just, it's like they made it for me. I love it. I'm not going to stop yelling. Because I know that's not even what he's called in this game, but that's what he's called ever since I found that out, that's what he's called in my heart.
Yes, in the original localization of Eternal Punishment, they say that was a pseudonym, and his actual name is Kandori. His first name is still Guido, so his first name is Italian, and his last name is not, which makes it weird in a different way.
Yeah, and not just Italian American, the best kind.
Well, Bernard, what about your memorable moments?
Oh, I had some. Ulala's great. Balfu's hilarious. I love how in this game there keep being situations where characters are just talking about shit, and Balfu's like, "We're supposed to be doing something here." I find it very funny.
Just makes me want them to ignore him even more.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool because if he didn't say that, we wouldn't even think it was weird they're talking because, they're operating on video game time. Which means that just because it's the middle of a boss battle doesn't mean you can't call the colonel and get a 5-minute long spiel about the boss's backstory.
Talking is a free action.
Yes.
Yeah. But now that they're calling it out, it's not actually in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget the rest of mine. I didn't write them down. I'm sorry.
Hey, don't gotta be sorry. I think it's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We forgive you. I mean, as the notes doer, you're pretty much putting all the good stuff in the notes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You've given us a lot of amazing content already.
That's usually how it works.
I did call out Katsuya's amazing line about our immunity from curses.
Yeah. Also, I'll say, sewer dungeon. I'm a little freak. I like sewer dungeons. Not because they suck or are bad and boring, although I do like things that suck and are bad and boring, but because, A, it's just a formal element. It's always cute to see the same formal element repeat multiple times. You see how they sort of change and modify. But also they do have an inherent interest to them because they're unintuitive. Depends on the dungeon and the game, of course, but what you think is a hallway isn't really a hallway. It's two hallways that are parallel to each other, right? Depending on the game, right? But like, say you have a sewer where there's water in the middle and concrete paths on both sides. That's two hallways, even though it looks graphically like one, unless it's like you lower the water, in which case it's like, oh, well, that's actually fine, right? Because you can go down the middle. There's always interesting stuff going on with sewer dungeons. There's a reason why they keep using them, right? But this one, very boring. Nothing interesting about it at all. But I did like the graphics. I thought, this whole game's got great graphics, but I liked the textures they used and the colors. And it felt very sewery. It didn't feel like a sewer themed hallway. It felt like a sewer. I don't know. Not much to say about it, except that anytime a sewer dungeon appears, you're going to compare it with other sewer dungeons. And I'll give this one a solid I don't know, like 60th percentile, something like that.
Okay.
There is one interesting thing about this sewer dungeon, which I didn't mention, which is it's broken up into sections, and in each section you have a limited amount of time to get through, or else you'll be swept back to the beginning of the section. And what's weird...
Never happened to me, but that was technically a mechanic.
Yes. What's weird is that a big thing is made of you have to select the right path of two paths, and that'll make it shorter. But there's no indication which path is the shorter path.
Yeah.
And like once you choose one, you can't try the other.
Also, if you pick the wrong one, you're probably fine anyway.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. You want to know some bullshit?
Yes.
The game Metal Gear 1 pulls that in its post-final boss escape sequence. After you defeat the final boss of Metal Gear 1, it's like, oh no. Wait, maybe Metal Gear 2? That's even dumber. I can't remember. I think it's maybe Metal... No, yeah, sorry. It's Metal Gear 1. Metal Gear 1. Metal Gear 1, it's like, oh, the base is blowing up. You better escape. And a big time limit goes up on the screen and starts counting down. And then you go up, like, north one step or whatever. You go through a couple rooms. And then you get to a room with 3 ladders. And, of course, this is a 2-dimensional game. So all 3 ladders extend off the screen. And it's not until you start climbing the ladder that you might notice on this, if you go up one screen, like the left ladder cuts off and stops. And then if you go up 2 screens, you see that actually the right ladder was also bad. So you could theoretically pick the wrong ladder twice in a row. If you pick like the shortest one and then the mediumest one and then the correct one. And this is, again, after the final boss. I actually have never managed to pick I think I always pick the right one. Maybe it's just like the one in the middle or something. Like, I guess I'm just lucky like that, or just inherently amazingly good at games. Joke, I'm not. But so, like, I don't think I've actually had it happen where, like, time limit runs out. But, like, that's fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
No argument for me there. I'm glad sewer dungeons are a thing that bring you joy. That's always nice. I just had remembered a random thought was, and this is an area where because again, as Bernard mentioned, we do not know these guest star party members that much. But I found it the thing of like her worrying that she is just like her stalker because of her own possibly unreciprocated affection for the protagonist of the first game, ? And the fact that she pines after him and her feeling like, well, that's the same thing as this stalker. When it wasn't clear that was born out of her fears, I was like, I don't know if I want to equate those things.
Yeah, it's like, is the game saying this, or is the character saying it because she's having problems?
Yeah, and the fact that it is clear, it's like, oh, no, this is just her worrying about this. And if I'm reading it right, that it is just like, yeah, no, she's just feeling that way because, you know, she doesn't know if her affections are really, you know, matched, and she doesn't know how one-sided this is. Even if she isn't stalking him, she feels like it's similar. And, like, honestly, that feels very accurate. As someone who frequently worries that she has put more affection and energy into a relationship than the other party and feeling like an idiot for it, and worrying that, not quite stalking level, but that kind of vein of thing, it was a bit relatable.
Yeah. As usual with this series, with this game and the previous game, as bizarre and intrudable as so much of it is, whenever it has regular old human emotion shit, it's usually like surprisingly insightful and on point. And it's like, oh, they're really doing something real there. Interesting. And it's funny how it comes in between like the dumbest shit you've ever seen. Or are you yawning again?
I'm sorry.
Well, do we have anything else, or are we ready to close out for the day?
I feel like there's stuff I'm forgetting. I do like that Nanjo is one of the characters that comes back and has a major part in this game, because from my recollection of the first game, which I played like 6 years ago, he is the most memorable character from that game. He's just a rich shithead, and he's terrible, but like he learns to not be so terrible, and he's real good. So I like that he's back, even though he's had his entire arc at this point.
Just because, you know what, just because people have already had their arc doesn't mean that they're not still important. If you, if you've already had your character development arc, you're valid.
You're valid. You can help other people with theirs. We still love you.
Yeah, that's right. Or you can just vibe.
I mean, listen, some people don't even need a character arc. Some people don't even need a character arc.
Yeah, they're just good.
So true.
Gestures at Superman. Listen, Superman doesn't need a character arc. Until screenwriters realize this, they're not going to make a good Superman movie.
If I was a character, I would simply already be the best character and therefore not need a dramatic arc.
Exactly.
People might read people might say that my story is boring. I don't care about them. I don't care about whether people think that my story is interesting. I'm here to be a good person and to vibe. Character arcs are for losers, actually.
Well, I mean, you can tell a story without a character arc for your protagonist. If you do so, then you're not. Then by not having a character for the main character, it's because they were right the whole time. It is the world that is wrong and must change to fit them.
Oh, I'm not even getting that deep. I'm just saying that I think the characters don't need us to approve or be entertained by them.
Oh, I mean, that's good too.
It's like, hey, live your life, man. Fictional person doesn't exist.
I mean, honestly, like...
Main character from Pokemon? I don't need to know your interiority.
That's fair.
Blue? Wait, Red? Which one's the good guy?
Red is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into my deep Pokemon knowledge. I don't want to completely lose any credibility I might have somehow faked.
Anyway.
I mean, if you get knocked down to 0, you're still better than us, which are well into the negatives at this point, so. Anyway, yeah, Bernard, you should say all the stuff.
Oh. This series could not happen without your support. You can go to rpgbook.club to support us.
That's right.
On Ko-Fi.
Preach.
And there's membership tiers. You can do the $1 tier, which gets you basically everything. And or you can do the $5 tier, where we'll shout out your name.
We love to hear it.
I don't have access to the list of names, so
sorry, guys.
I'm going to have to cut it in later. And
magic of editing.
Yes.
Sam's not here, but he can be here magically through technology.
Yes.
Aaron 524, Cerebral Wind, Anthony Lerma, Vimk, Jfro Prime, Eli Bergmoss, Doho, and Tuxedo Kin.
Then we have our highest tier.
It's called Luminary, folks. You're going to love it.
It's called Luminary. They're all Dragon Quest
That's
themed.
That's reference to Dragon Quest. That's right. Luminary is a legendary line.
Yes. And our current only Luminary is Carr, who is a dentist. So
let's go, Carr, baby. Love the car.
He wants to give a shout out to dental hygiene and tell you to... He wants to
give a shout out to your mouth, is what Sam would say if he was here.
Yes, and I didn't say it.
That's right.
So brush your teeth twice a day, especially right before you go to bed.
That's right. It's very important. Tell that bacteria to go fuck themselves.
Yes. For RPG Book Club, I've been a sleepy boy.
I'm a surprisingly unsleepy Maddie Grace Weapon.
And I'm a barely woken up Trish.
There we go. Let's all go do things that aren't talk about video games.
Toodaloo.
Sounds good.
Bye,
Bye everybody.